Hello, gentlemen. I want to welcome you to the Voters East of the Industrial Canal Forum. My name is Dawn Abear. So we're going to get started. I'd like you to state your full name, what position you're in, how long you've been in that position, and what seat you are seeking. And we'll start with Mr. Baptiste.
My name is Belden Baptiste. I'm a community activist. I work with a number of youth groups. I have been doing this for 30 years, boots on the ground, working for the community, being an activist, and working with different programs. I'm running for the 2nd Congressional District seat for Congress.
Thank you very much. Mr. James.
My name is Kobe James. I'm a disabled veteran from New Orleans, native of New Orleans. I've recently retired as a veteran. So up until about 5 or 6 years ago, I was serving my country. And it was an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to serve. As of right now, I was enjoying retirement, and then I noticed what was going on in my community and realized that I have nothing to do with my time but dedicate it to change. Change that I can see in my community, that I can physically touch.
Okay, and what position are you seeking?
2nd Congressional District seat.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to introduce you to our 2 members who are going to ask you a series of questions. We have Donna Glapion and we have Brandon Gilmore. So we'll start with the questions. Thank you so much.
Good evening, gentlemen. I have a few questions.
Good evening.
Start with the answers, Mr. Baptiste, then proceed to Mr. James. My first question is, at what point did you decide to seek the U.S. House Representative seat, and what skills do you possess that qualifies you to preside over this decision?
To repeat the question?
At what point did you decide to seek the seat that you're running for, and what skills do you possess that qualifies you to preside over this decision?
All right. At what point? Well, at a point when I saw what was going on in my district for the last 10 years, I have saw that no progress have been done in the district, and what skills I bring 30 years, boots on the ground, community activist, fighting with a number of groups. I got my own thing called a community recallers, where we call the local officials that's not representing their position.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Mr. James?
I decided to run once I realized that politics such as they are in our state, especially in our district, aren't as effective as they should be. I look at things that a congressman should be able to affect, should be able to change, should be able to speak on, and I don't see action happening. In this particular regard, I agree with Mr. Baptiste in a very, very extreme manner. It's one thing to have a lack of representation. It's another thing to have representation that's lacking.
Correct. Thank you, Mr. James. My next question. Healthcare is a major concern, especially the high cost of healthcare. If elected, what is your plan in addressing this problem? For instance, protecting the Affordable Care Act and the cost of drugs, prescriptions.
My thing is Medicare for all, and I think it should be Medicare for all. I think there don't be, a high cost of prescriptions, because I see seniors stressing every day to pay for their medicine, don't have the money to pay for their medicine, and I think that should be a big change. And with the pharmaceutical companies, that's why the congressman that's in the district, I won't take money from big corporations. I won't take money from people that are harm the community. And so I think healthcare and Medicare should be for all. And I think it's a serious need, because I see seniors suffer every day, and I see other people that can't get their medicine.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Mr. James?
My belief system as far as this goes is twofold. On the one hand, the pharmaceutical industry is a massive industry. It employs an insane amount of people. However, manipulating the cost of drugs that people need to do basic things, to have a basic level of living is unreasonable. It's egregious. It needs to change. Not in a abstract, I want to fight this kind of change. It needs to be investigated. We need to figure out how these companies are regulating the cost of these drugs and what reason they feel that they can develop a drug that costs arguably $3 to develop and then charge an insurance company $600 to produce. Therefore, if you don't have private insurance, Medicaid might not even cover the medicine you need. So I do believe in Medicare for all. I believe in a practical way to apply it, though. Everybody needs health care. Everybody can't afford health care. And I understand why that's an issue. I understand why that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. I believe it needs to be addressed in a direct, practical manner, not something as abstract as we just need to yell at the drug companies. It's simple to lobby. People make entire careers off lobbying. But actually having something happen is an entire other animal.
Yes, sir. Thank you. My next question is, it's a yes or no question. Should a Supreme Court justice be replaced before January 1st, 2021?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Mr. James?
Yes.
Thank you. My next question. There's a high number of employed workers that are working in minimum wage jobs. Would you be inclined to pass legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage?
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Yes.
Thank you. Mr. James?
May I ask a question?
You want me to repeat?
Is this a yes or no question?
No, it's not.
Okay. That's what I was trying to confirm. Please repeat the
Okay,
question.
I thought it was a yes or no.
No, just the Supreme Court. When I ask the question again, there's a high number of employed workers that are working in minimum wage jobs. Would you be inclined to pass legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage?
Yes, I would.
Baptiste.
Oh, yes, I would. Yes, I would. One of the things I have saw was that our people are still making, different people are making $8.50, so it should be equal pay for equal work. For instance, I look at an African American male; she's making like $25,000. Why? An African American female or male is making $25,000. While white people are making $75,000. And I think if we raise the minimum wage, I think that crime will stop. Poverty, we got to get them out of poverty. And when you not getting a decent minimum wage, take for instance the garbage men. The garbage men are fighting for a decent minimum wage, and so since they fought it for decent minimum wage and been on strike, they don't want to give them a decent minimum wage. But I do think that we should raise the minimum wage.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Mr. James?
I am simply torn between the two on this subject. I do believe that we should convert from minimum wage to living wage, as in everyone, regardless of what you're doing, makes a minimum amount of money to be able to live and survive. Now, something like that comes with a caveat of slightly higher taxes, but people would complain less about taxes if they saw their tax work directly applied to their daily lives more. I am 100% behind raising the minimum wage. I'm also 100% behind mandatory job training.
Thank you. My next question. Have any one of you gentlemen been involved in any actions for minority communities that have been negatively affected by large industrial companies generating toxic chemicals?
Read the question again.
Have any one of you gentlemen been involved in any actions for minority communities that have been negatively affected by large industrial companies generating toxic chemicals, such as in the parish?
Such in what area?
Such as in the river parishes on the river.
I have been involved with St. James with the chemical problem, and that how they have took most of the people homes and brought chemical plants, and they're taking their homes every day. And you got that African American community that have been, they bought out the white community and left the black people with St. James and St. John. I have been up there. I have marched with them. I have been fighting with them for a very long time. And so, yes, I have been involved with St. James and St. John's, and I think it's long overdue for the river parishes, because the chemical plants are killing the people. And when we got a congressman that's taking money from chemical plants and industrials, and that's why he's not fighting against them. Yes, I support St. James, St. John, and all the river parishes, and just not there. They got a parish in Orleans Parish, they got a development called Garden Plaza. So I support them 100. I plan on to fight for them 100%. And I think the people that live in the chemical plants, that the communities need to be cleaned up and they need to be made whole again. Because most of them I talk to say, I want to stay, but we need to be made whole again. And so I support them fully, 100%. And I'm going to keep on fighting for them, whether I'm the congressman or whether I'm not.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste, for that. Mr. James?
Would you please repeat the question?
Yes, sir. Have you been involved in any actions for minority communities that have been negatively affected by large industrial companies generating toxic chemicals?
Yes, however, the events which caused me to become involved didn't even occur in our district. It occurred at the bottom of the feet, right near the drainage canals. I helped my friend, his family owns a big section of the river right there. I helped them clean up some oil spill, and then went to the oil company and, well, kind of got in trouble for fussing and trespassing and getting in their way. But you could see them dumping. Like, it was violation at a scale that wasn't even hidden. It wasn't even subversive anymore. It was blatant, we're dumping this in the river and we don't care who sees. And that was an issue. And we dredged, we cleaned, we got covered in oil, we cleaned out animals, we cleaned out reptiles. We fought down there. And there's really nothing to show for it. Nothing changed. And we need legislation, and the EPA needs to actually get down there and do something. And we need to be the motivation, the nexus for that happening, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. James. That concludes my set of questions. I'm about to turn it over to Ms. Glapion. She has a few questions. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It was a privilege.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you both for participating this evening. I'm going to start with the questions, and if you would answer in the same order, Mr. Baptiste and then Mr. James. My first question is, Louisiana's wetlands are of great concern to folks that live in that area and also folks all over the state. Can voters be assured that you will continue funding projects that protect our wetlands?
Totally, 100%. I will continue to fight for it, and yes, 100%.
Mr. James?
Not only will I fight for it, I'll get us increased funding. We need to make the rest of the country see why our wetlands should matter to their funding, to their tax dollars, in order to get the funding necessary to preserve it and preserve conservation efforts. There are entire ecosystems that we have no idea what benefit they could bring humanity. We have no idea what benefit they could bring simply by being preserved. And we won't get any attention as long as we keep it local. We have to bring it national. We have to bring it to the national stage and argue for national funding. So yes, they can absolutely rely on me protecting it.
Thank you. Next question. How important are climate action initiatives in the protection of our environment? Mr. Baptiste?
It's very important, because our environment with climate change, if you take the animals, you take the land, you take everything, it's very important. And we must have the best ways to deal with climate change.
Thank you, sir. Mr. James?
Climate change is a complex concern. It's hard to tell that line between human interference and human damage. It's hard to figure out exactly how much we need to interfere before we're causing detriment to the ecosystem we're trying to save. I believe it's something that requires delicate research on a case-by-case basis, on a section-by-section basis.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Mr. Baptiste, what is your opinion regarding the Black Lives Matter movement?
My opinion is that the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's a serious movement. I think black men are being killed all over the country and cops are getting away with it. I think, you know, the Black Lives Matter 100% matter. Now, one of the things I would like to do to make sure the Black Lives Matter is that cops should not be immune. And what I mean by not being immune, have immunity, is when they kill these young black men, they should be held accountable. They should not have a way where they can get out. And I think I support the Black Lives Matter, you know, and I think all lives matter. And I think youth lives matter, black youth. Nobody don't talk about the black youth. We say black lives, but we got to talk about the black young people because their lives matter, the black youth. I mean, when you look at the black youth, they just the other day in Orleans, three kids got killed. One by 15 years old. A 15 years old killed 3 kids. Black lives matter. So we got to create opportunities and we got to fight. We got to have a black agenda. We got to have a black agenda. I mean, 2008, they did the black agenda. They brought all the world leaders, all the ministers, all these people together. 2008, the Democrats and the Black Caucus said, look, we got this black agenda, but they haven't did nothing. They haven't showed that Black Lives Matter. In 2008, they had the black agenda. We in 2020, and guess what? Nothing has been done for the black agenda. So yes, Black Lives Matter, and I will fight hard to make sure our black lives are protected, our voter rights are protected, like the 1965 Voter Rights Act, where they took Section 5 out, now they are trying to take Section 4 out. So we gotta protect Black Lives Matter, we gotta protect the Black Lives voting rights, the voter suppression, and all that. So I'll be a fearless advocate for that.
Thank you, Mr. Baptiste. Mr. James?
I believe in Black Lives Matter as the movement. I am a little skeptical on its practice as far as application. Now, Black lives 100% matter, and that is not to say that all lives don't matter. However, that is to make it very clear that right now, at this moment, what we're fussing about, what we're screaming about, what we are angry about is that it doesn't feel like Black lives matter. The systematic destruction and denigration of us as a race in every level of government, both local, regional, and national, is over with. We as a people are fed up, and this corona, this COVID, has only served to isolate us and allow us to really truly see each other struggle for what it is. We're no longer separate entities. We're no longer separate Black people. We are a singular community arguing and fighting for a singular cause, to be treated like humans, so that we the people does not mean we the people who are white. It means we the people who are American. We the people who sacrifice.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Do you agree or disagree, given that there's such disparity in state laws regarding stand your ground and no-knock warrants, do you think there should be some federal regulation in that regard?
Yes, I think stand your ground and no-knock warrants, it should be federal regulations. I think the percentage should be federal, because when I take the young lady, I forget her name, from Xavier. They knocked and they went there and shot with no knock warrants and killed the lady. I don't support none of that. I want to make legislation. I want to make laws that's gonna, from the federal, that's gonna hold them accountable and make it better for the people.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Here's where I see the problem. A criminal is a criminal. When they're breaking the law, generally speaking, they are aware that they are breaking the law. So rather than prevent a problem after it becomes a problem, I'd rather take preemptive action. Retrain the police officers. The problem also comes in where federal law is interfering with the way that the state itself runs. We are United States. We are a country of separate entities united in one cause and one goal under the Constitution, which means that we as a massive group, as the country, can make decisions such as this. However, each individual state may not agree, may not want to adhere to the laws that the federal government mandates. And as an individual state, they would technically have the right to argue against any law they felt as a state was unjust. So I said all that to say, yes, we do need to make laws that hold police officers, all law enforcement officers, accountable for their actions. However, we need to make the laws in such a way that they don't violate our sovereignty as states.
Thank you. Next question. What is your position on gun control, Mr. Baptiste?
On gun control, my position on gun control is that we should have laws that convicts can't buy guns off the internet. And what I mean by that is they right now you can buy a gun off the internet and you can put it together. You don't need no background check. You don't need nothing. I think we need stronger gun laws, and then also I think we need to ban assault rifles and no high power rifles, because when you look at the mass shootings, when you look at the shootings that's going on, you got a lot of people that's getting guns that ain't supposed to. Now, I do believe that people should have a right, once they didn't pass the background check and everything, to protect themselves. That I do think that, but when you look at these massive gun laws, people being shot, people, and convicts are getting their hands on guns. So I think somewhere we need to make stronger laws for them to have these weapons, and making sure that the background checks are universal. What I mean universal, that means worldwide. So yes, but I think we should have universal background checks.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Okay. It is actually an extremely complicated affair for someone to get enough parts for a weapon to build one if they have felony convictions. However, if they already have felony convictions and they are in need of a firearm, they're not getting it offline. They're walking up the street to the nearest corner store, finding that same guy that sells them weed and saying, "Hey, bruh, you know where I can find a pistol?" It's literally, it's easier to find a gun than it is to find a parking spot. It truly is. There are no weapon manufacturing facilities in the South, no large ones. We're not producing AKs. We're not making Glocks. We get them from up north. So my concern is, rather than make laws that criminals are already breaking that only puts a restriction on those who are obeying the law, we need to put laws on manufacturing. We need to put laws and actual monitoring on manufacturing. If we control the manufacturing, then we control how many weapons actually get to the streets. Also, weapon education should be mandatory. I'm not saying put guns in the hands of kids at school. I'm saying just like there's a sex education course, there should be a weapon safety course. Kids
Thank
should
you.
have,
That's time, Mr. James. Thank you.
my apologies.
That's my last question. I'll yield the floor to Mr. Bonner.
Good evening, everyone. My
Good
first
evening.
question is going to be about the current emergency elections plan proposed by the Secretary of State. We know now that the governor does not back the current plan. He backed the plan over the summer, I think, to his chagrin. But now he's against the current plan as it is. What do you guys think about the emergency election plan? Do you think that seniors between the ages of 55 and 64 should have the right to vote without an excuse, to have the right to vote absentee without an excuse or a witness requirement?
Yeah, I think seniors should have the right to vote, and I think they don't need a witness. I think these seniors should have the right to vote, because if you're looking at COVID-19, a lot of seniors can't get to the polls. A lot of seniors can't come out of the nursing home. So, I think the seniors should be able to vote, and I don't think they need a witness, because it's their vote.
Mr. James?
I agree with Mr. Baptiste in this case. As long as the senior citizen in question is mentally competent, and even if they're not physically able, as long as they're mentally competent, they should be able to vote. It's their right as a citizen. And I can't think of a single 65-year-old man or woman that wants to be babysat while they're doing something like voting, or anything for that matter.
My next question is a yes or no question. Do you support a national holiday for Election Day, for Super Tuesday?
Yes. Yes, it should be a national holiday.
What was the last part of the question again? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Do you support a national holidays for Super Tuesday, national holiday for Super Tuesday, Election Day?
I've never considered it before. No.
Why wouldn't you?
Voting is our responsibility as citizens. More than a right, it's what you do to be called a citizen. It's one of the few very basic necessities to be a citizen. I don't feel like it should be a special day. I feel like you should seek to vote. Workplaces, businesses should allow you the right to vote without it being a holiday. It's not a luxury. It's not a smoke break.
My second question is about whether or not you guys support, if you were elected, would you support restoring the Voting Rights Act? We know that Section 4B was struck down, and as a result, former Confederate states and other territories of old do not have to have their redistricting maps pre-cleared beyond this 2021 cycle. Do you guys support restoring the Voting Rights Act?
Yes, I definitely support restoring it, because, like I'm saying, like I spoke earlier, I think it was Section 5 was took out, and now they're trying to take Section 4, and we gotta get strong about that Civil Rights Act, because if they take Section 4 and 5 out, I mean, 1, 2, and 3 ain't gonna have no meat on the bones. So I support it fully, and we must restore the voting rights, because our ancestors then put up and fought for that, and to see someone trying to tear that down, no. We must fight. And if I'm there, I'm gonna fight 100%.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for the candidates.
Well, I want to thank you all for participating, Mr. James and Mr. Baptiste. I wish you the best of luck in your campaign.